What's up, DAW Nation? My name is Wyatt Troy, and I want to welcome you to the Monday episode of Behind the DAW. Now, if you're new to the podcast, this is a show where I interview music producers, artists, music industry experts, singers, songwriters, sound designers, and everyone else in between on an emotional, philosophical, branding, marketing, and overall music business basis. However, this is the Monday episode. And what the Monday episode is that over the course of a month, I read a book that I feel like would really benefit music producers. I go in, I find all the nuggets of glory, and then I bring them back over here and show you how to implement them into your lives so that you can grow exponentially faster. And so what is the book for this week? So as I mentioned in the last episode, we're actually starting 2 books this month, right? So the first 2 weeks of October was Superfans by Pat Flynn. And now for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be covering The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And I'm telling you, this concept, if you fully understand this concept, is actually going to change your lives. You're going to see it everywhere once I show this to you, and you're going to figure out how to leverage it in your lives. Because this principle, this doesn't matter about opinion, this doesn't matter about moods or attitudes or anything like that. This is 100% fact. You can't beat it. It is natural law. And I can guarantee, I can promise you that if you walk away and you implement what we're going to be talking about today, you're going to start seeing results like literally tomorrow. And then the next week, and then the month, it's going to be crazy. So what does this book, The Compound Effect, really focus on? That's a handsome question there, DAW Nation. It focuses on the compound effect, which, I mean, shocker, right? So what is the compound effect? It is this phenomenon that happens is that when you start putting in the same work over time, the results that you get from that work increase while the effort stays the same. So for example, let's say that you have a bank account, and when you put money into that bank account, every month you gain interest on the money that you have in that bank account. So let's just go absolutely ridiculous and say that the interest rate is 50%. So that means that if you put $100 in that bank account with 50% interest, that would mean for the first month you would make $50. But then the next month, if you kept all that money in there, you are now looking at 50% of $150, which comes out to be $175. So next month you're making $75 off interest, right? Month number 1, you were making 50. Month number 2, now you're making 75. Now we take 75 plus 150, and that comes out to be 225. What the heck is 225 something? Anyways, you're getting what I'm saying, right? Basically, each month it compounds on itself and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But the question is, does this happen with your music productions? Does this happen with your song streams? Does this happen with your collaborations? Does this happen with your fans? Those are absolutely just phenomenal questions that you have. But before I answer those, I want to give you 2 scenarios, okay? These 2 scenarios are talked about in the book, and it really helps kind of solidify the power of the compounding effect. Let's say in scenario A, I just pulled out my checkbook. I don't have a checkbook. It's 2019. But let's say I pulled out my magical checkbook and I wrote a check to you for $3 million. In scenario B, I pulled out my magical checkbook, but this is like a magical checkbook. I mean, we're talking like Magic Square checkbook, right? And in this magical checkbook, I wrote a check out for you for 1 penny. But there's a stipulation on this check. Basically, on this check is if you did not cash it for 31 days, every day the amount that you have on that check would double. So for example, on day 1, it would be 1 penny. Day 2, 2 pennies. Day 3, 4 pennies, so on and so forth, right? Which one would you take? Now, if you're an absolute genius, you probably just did all the math in your head and you're like, wow, by the end of 30 days, I've had a crap ton of money, which is amazing. But to save you the time of doing all the math, basically what it's going to come out to be is over $10 million if you go with scenario B. But here's the kicker to this scenario. Remember, scenario A, $3 million. But with scenario B, you actually wouldn't surpass $3 million until day 30. Literally 2 days before, my magical checkbook would run out of magical juice. Because on day 29, you would hit $2.5 million, which is $500,000 short of $3 million, right? So on day 29, you're almost there. You're literally just 2 days away from being done. You're still not getting past, you're still not beating scenario A, but on day 30, that's when you finally surpass it. But then on day 31 is when you more than triple what scenario A is. And so the concept that is talked about in the book is implementing certain things into your lives, which for the most part looks small up front, looks insignificant up front. But then on day 29, 30, and 31, which represents, a couple years down the line or, later on in your life, you're going to see this massive shift, this massive increase in certain areas of your life. In fact, here's a really great example of how we use the compound effect over at Daw Nation without even realizing it. When I released the first episode of Behind the Daw back in September of 2017, I was getting like 10 to maybe like 20 or 30 listens per day, right? But then I released 2 episodes, and then it increased to 15 to 35 streams per day. And then I released another one, and then another one, and then another one. Plus, that's not even counting all the stuff within the DAW, right? But all of these things are compounding on top of themselves. Now every single day, we're getting way more streams than when we had in the beginning, but it's because of this compounding effect. If we flip it on that head and actually show how it applies to you, it would be the same for you as releasing songs. So for example, let's say that you put out a song, and over the course of a month, you got 2,000 streams. Right? But then the next month when you release another song and you got another 2,000 streams with song number 2, but just because you're getting streams with song number 2, so song number 1 doesn't stop, right? Maybe song number 1's still bringing in 500 streams per month. Well, all of a sudden you went from 2,000 streams per month to 2,500 streams per month, and then you release song number 3, it gets you even more, and song number 4, and song number 5. You got to remember, just because when you release a song, that does not mean that all the people in the world have listened to the song that you released before. There are still people that are going to discover it later. They're going to come back, they're going to listen to it. Maybe they just love that song, they come back and listen to it all the time, so on and so forth. It's this concept that like the more that you release songs, the more the compound effect is going to happen. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast recently, you know that I'm a huge, gigantic proponent of releasing a lot of songs because of the compound effect. When you release a lot of songs, you are going to generate those streams faster because of the compound effect. You put out one and then it compounds with the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And also, not even on the streaming aspect, but on the marketing aspect, the marketing compounds as well, because you put out a song, you try a bunch of stuff, man, okay, so this type of marketing works, this kind of doesn't, so on and so forth. And then that compounds with the next release. Okay, I really know this works now. Let's try this other strategy, see if that other strategy that helped it out a lot. Okay, so we'll remember that for the next strategy comes along. Okay, well, here's this new strategy this one didn't work very well. Let's stick with the old strategy next time, so on and so forth. And it compounds over time, and you start getting better and better and better and better. Which, of course, if you didn't listen to the last episode of Behind the Daw, which was released last Friday with Austin Collins, or 85, we talked about, how so many people, they don't want to do this. They don't want to release songs all the time because, they're stingy with their music, or they're afraid, it's not perfect yet, which we explain is like absolutely hysterical because you are an imperfect human. Therefore, you will never create a perfect song. Therefore, you might as well put your songs out, figure out what works and what doesn't, and move forward, because those will start to compound, right? So there's so much compounding effect that will happen when you start releasing songs more frequently, right? You're going to get more streams. You're going to figure out production-wise what works and what doesn't. Your workflow is going to increase. You're going to figure out the marketing faster. And the faster you grow, the more that you can work with bigger people, the more shows that you're going to get, so on and so forth. It just compounds so much faster when you start releasing more and more music more frequently, right? I honestly, genuinely believe that is the fastest way to grow as a music producer. A lot of people tell me, I really just want to make these songs. I really want to big up these big stash of songs before I can release them. And I'm like, man, like I understand like maybe like 10 songs or so, but like these people are sitting on like 30, 40, 50 unreleased songs. I'm like, guys, you have no idea how much you could be putting all of those things into the compound effect, right? Because the compound effect, just think of it as like this big machine where the more ingredients that you put into the machine, the more it puts out to you, right? And so obviously the ingredients is like more songs. And so the more songs you put in, the more of a result you're going to get out of it. So anyways, I kind of went off on a little tangent there about releasing songs. Please release more songs, guys. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life in so many different aspects. Nonetheless, let's keep moving forward. Now, I think it is important to note that inside of the book, there was certain concepts that were taught that were in direct violation of the 10X rule. Now, if you haven't checked out these episodes where I've talked about the 10X rule, they were like 4 episodes ago, 4 Monday episodes ago. Just go ahead and go look for the 2 episodes that says your goals are too small and is there room in the music industry for you? Because in there we cover the concepts that are talked about in the 10X rule. Now, what I mean by this is in the book, he talks about the way to really start using the compound rule is to start small with little things, right? Little actions, and eventually they will compound into big actions. And they absolutely will. This is the compounding effect, right? As you do something small and then over time it turns into something big. Again, for those who have listened to the 10X rule episodes, that is not the type of life that you want to live. The The first road is to retreat from the opportunity. The second road is to take little action. The third road is to take average action. And the fourth road is to take massive action. Now, we know that we are massive action taking people, right? When we want to do something, we do it proper, we do it huge, we do it massive. But inside the book, he says, don't do that. He says, start off small, do something small, so on and so forth. And I particularly like to subscribe to the massive action theology. I just like to go all in, put it all in, put my best effort into it, and think about it. If you put in even the smallest amount of effort, and that will compound over time. Imagine putting in massive action right up front and having that compound over time, right? And so I just want you to know there are some things in the book that are in direct violation to the 10x rule. And of course, we're going to run into that. We're going to find some books that, they either kind of conflict with each other. I subscribe much more to the massive action mindset than to just, taking little steps here and there. You can do whatever you want, but I'm assuming that you're more of a massive action kind of taker, just like I am. But I just want to let you know it was there. And to go along with that, I actually have this ancient African proverb. I have no idea where it came from. I have no idea how I remember this, but it's a really great proverb, and it goes along with what we're talking about here with the compound effect. This African proverb goes like this: for anyone that says small things can't have a massive impact has never slept a night in a tent with a mosquito, right? And by the way, I have done that, and it really sucks. Like, I actually almost scratched my entire torso off. Okay, it was awful. So, was it my torso or was it my arm? I don't know, somewhere on my body that itched and hurt really bad. It was really, really tragic. I think I was like 13. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. But it's still the concept that but even the small things can have massive results down the line. So we might as well put massive action in right now to get even bigger results down the line. So this is all well and good. We've talked about the theory of the compound effect and everything, but now let's get down to the nitty gritty details of how it really applies to you as a music producer, right? Like literal examples. I shared one earlier with the song streams and stuff like that, but what are some other examples of how you can apply the compound effect literally right now? One of the ways that I can think about is through collaboration. So for example, let's say that you wanted to collaborate with Unlike Pluto, which by the way, in a couple of weeks, he is going to come on an episode of In the Dot, and we might even be doing a course with him. If you would like to see that course done, go ahead, send me a DM on Instagram or comment below. I'd love to hear from that. But back to what I was saying. Unfortunately, if you're just starting out producing and you tried to hit up Unlike Pluto, you probably wouldn't be able to collaborate with him right off the bat. So how can you use the compound effect in order to get you up there so you can collaborate with him the fastest way possible? And just so I've tried this method. This is how we were able to grow in the DOS and behind the DOS so fast. So I know this already works. So using the compound effect would basically look like this. You start off by collaborating with someone that is a little bit bigger than you. After you do that, then you can take that example. You guys create an amazing song, you release it, it does awesome, so on and so forth. Then what you can do is then you can reach out to someone that's even bigger than the first collaboration, right? You can go as high as you want, but just know that the higher you go, the more unlikely it will be that they collaborate with you. I'm not saying they won't, it's just the more unlikely it will be. Let's say you reach out to person number 2 who is bigger than person number 1. And basically, you reach out to him and you're like, hey dude, I collaborated with so-and-so and we did awesome. We did this really amazing song, sounds like this, did really awesome on, with the release and everything. I would love to do a song with you as well, so on and so forth. So now you're reaching out to person number 2, and let's say that person number 2 says yes as well. Then after you guys release that song, you go to person number 3, who's again bigger than person number 2. And because you already have 2 collaborations underneath your belt of people that are bigger than you already have 2 songs out, they sound really good, they did really awesome. Person number 3 is now even more likely to collaborate with you, and so on and so forth. And you can start growing like this even faster, and eventually all of these, maybe it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people down the road, but you eventually get up to Unlike Pluto status and you reach out to him, and even still he's going to be bigger than you at that point. But because you're like, hey, over the course of the year, I've done 9 collaborations with these other people, these songs are incredible, they've done amazing, so on and so forth, and here's the proof to prove it, he's going to be even more likely to do it with you. Now let's think about another way that you can use the compound effect. Another example of using the compound effect is actually through your social media content. Gary Vee talked about this concept, which was, if you want one of your pieces of content on social media to go viral, then one of the best things that you can do is just crank out the amount of content that you put out. So for example, let's say that every single time that you put out a piece of content, your chances of going viral with the piece of content goes up. So in theory, the more pieces of content that you put up, the more of your chances of going viral goes up. Now, I understand that creating social media content is a little jaded sometimes, is a little confusing sometimes, especially when it comes to music producers. Like, do I just keep talking about my song? Do I take pictures of me in the studio? What do I do here? And that is definitely a conversation for another time, and it actually will take quite a while. So let's take someone like Daddy, who has an amazing brand that allows him to create a bunch of different content that doesn't just have to focus around his songs. You can create a lot of content that's focused around his brand, and he could post 2-3 times a day if he wanted to. And, it could be all about dad stuff. And, they could point back to his music and whatnot. And so he has a really good brand and able to do that. And so what you could do, the way you can use a compound effect, is just increase the amount of content that you create, increase the amount of valuable content that you create and you release on a weekly basis, right? In fact, that is what we are doing right now. Before we started the Monday episode, so roughly 2 months ago, a month and a half, however long ago it was, we were releasing one episode per week. 1 week was in the DAW, 1 week was behind the DAW, and so forth. We went back and forth like that. And now we're releasing a Monday episode. So we have a Monday episode every single week, and we still alternate between in the DAW and behind the DAW. But at the beginning of 2020, we are currently amping up. Me and my team are amping up right now so that we release 3 episodes per week. A Monday episode, a behind the DAW episode, like a regular behind the DAW episode when I interview another producer, music industry expert, and an in the DAW episode all in 1 week. So when we were only putting out 1 episode per week and we went to 2 episodes per week, logically you would think, okay, well, the amount of views and the amount of engagement, all that kind of stuff would just double. It didn't. It almost quadrupled, right? Because it compounded on top of everything. And so we're like, man, if we doubled our efforts, it quadrupled our output. Imagine if we tripled our efforts, and who's to say we're not getting 10x, 12x results at that point? You see what I'm saying? And so that is another way that you could do it, is by cranking up your social media content out into the world. Another great example of how you could implement this concept right now goes along perfectly with what we talked about last week, actually the last 2 weeks, which is superfans, right? Which is basically when you have one superfan, it's going to do amazing things for your music career. But what happens when you have 2? That you would think it does, double the results of it. No, it's going to do quadruple the results for it. Well, what happens when you have 3? What happens when you have 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, so on and so forth, right? The more superfans that you can get, the more it's going to help push everything forward, right? So a way that you could use a compound effect to grow your music even faster is to learn the tactics and take the time to implement the tactics to use superfans. Again, if you haven't checked out that episode, that is the last Monday episode. It is titled How to Get Superfans. I'd highly encourage you to go check it out. But I know the gears are starting to churn right now, DAW Nation. And so I have a question for the week for you that I would love for you to either tag me, take a screenshot right now and tag me in an Instagram story, or send me an Instagram DM, or just a Facebook DM. You can send me an email. You can comment below on the video or just the podcast app or wherever you are. And the question that I have for you is, what is something that you're going to implement right now that is going to start compounding for you over time, right? Because if you start right now, in a month, you're going to start seeing the results from it, right? So if you answer back every single DM that you have right now, that is going to compound over the month. I'm telling you right now, even just this last month, I have been really, really focusing on answering back every single Instagram DM. And I'm telling you, here we are a month later. It is the compounding effect of that has just been phenomenal. It's just been fantastic. The amount of people that have reached back out and, expressed how much the podcast has helped them, and more of the super fanage that is creating stuff like that. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It is amazing, the relationships that I'm gaining from all this kind of stuff. I would highly encourage you to pick something right now. Maybe it's releasing more songs. Maybe it's releasing more social media content. Maybe it's collaborations. Maybe it's just committing to be in the studio for 2 hours per day. Honestly, I want you to look about where you are right now. Okay, today is October 21st, 2019. And on November 21st, 2019, I promise if you keep up with this over a month, you're going to look back at it and be like, man, I can see the progress. And then on December 21st, 2019, you're going to look back 2 months and you'll be like, man, it's great. It's really, really going at this point. And then January 21st, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I'm the same person. A year later, you're going to be like, did I even live that life? Was that even real? I'm so far away from that now. 2 years out, so on and so forth. It's just going to keep compounding compounding over and over and over again. So, Daw Nation, again, what are you going to set in motion right now so that you can start implementing this? I'm going to call it the law, the compounding law, okay? Because this is a law. And I love using the word law because law, like a natural law, exists and operates regardless of opinion or mood or personality or circumstances or anything. Just like the law of gravity. It doesn't matter where you come from in the world. It doesn't matter what your mood is, what your personality is. It doesn't matter what people's opinions are. The law of gravity is the law of gravity every single time. And so I'm going to call this the compounding law. It works every single time. There's no exceptions whatsoever. You're literally going against the laws of reality, thinking that the compound effect will not happen. So again, go ahead, let me know, what are you going to implement this next week? And of course, the final thing that we need to talk about before the end of this episode is who wins the Daw Nation Weekly Citizen Award. Now, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what that is, every single week I keep my ears to the ground, I keep my eyes peeled for someone within Daw Nation that is doing something absolutely amazing, that really catches my eyes, that goes above and beyond the call of duty to help Daw Nation grow. And if you win the award, of course, there's two different awards that you can get. Number one is a free private lesson with me for an hour, or you can choose to come on and In the Daw or Behind the Daw episode and co-host with me and interview a big music producer, a music industry expert, someone of that nature. So who is the winner for this week? And the winner is, I just realized that I really need to start learning how to say names properly because I am terrible at pronouncing names. So I'm just gonna roll with it. But the winner for this week is Hunter Villa or Villa. I hope I said your name right. Hunter also goes by Fable. We've been in a bunch of contact over Instagram. He's an amazing person. Guys, you really should just go follow him just for the sake of having someone great on your Instagram. And also, he is an amazing producer, so you should go check out his music as well. So Hunter tagged me on Instagram story. He took a screenshot of the AU5 Behind the Daw episode that came out last Friday, and he said this: guys, once again, I recommend everyone should check out these podcast sessions. This is truly inspiring at In the Daw, Behind the Daw, and at AU5. The way you guys inspired me and made an impact on my life this past year helps me doing my best every single day so that I can help others the way that you have helped me. Hunter, you're amazing. You've won the award. Fantastic. I'm positive that you're going to hear this podcast before I get a chance to reach out to you, so I can't wait to hear from you, dude. And of course, you either get a private lesson or you get to come on the podcast with me and interview someone. So guys, again, if you want to win the award, just do something this week that is really going to catch my eye. You can leave a comment, you can tag me in an Instagram story, you can leave a review on iTunes. There's so many things that you can do to really catch my attention, and of course you'll get an award from it. And if you win multiple awards at the end of the year, which is coming up very quickly, by the way, you get what's called the Daw Nation Medal of Honor, which if you get the Daw Nation Medal of Honor, you get all of our courses and products that we released that year for free. So I would highly encourage you to hop on that. But Daw Nation, thank you so much for spending your Monday with me, coming through, listening to all of this. And by the way, make sure to stay tuned for this Friday. This Friday, we are releasing a new In the Daw episode with AU5. He's going to be breaking down an unreleased song called Swordfish. It's really mind-bendingly good. And that's going to be coming out on Friday, October 25th, which, by the way, is my mom's birthday. And that is going to be coming out at 12 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We're going to have a big premiere over on the YouTube channel. So if you want to show up and ask questions live to me, that'd be really awesome. I'd highly encourage that. I'd love to talk to you, get to know more about you and everything. So we'll see you over there then. But Daw Nation, thank you so much for coming through and listening. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Behind the Daw. And remember, Daw Nation, you have to spend time behind the Daw so you can absolutely crush it when you go in the Daw.